Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share my teaching project. I remember last year's keynote speaker, Alex Edelman, talked about how to be a better finance professor. And one thing he emphasized is we should share more teaching ideas at research conferences. So I want to congratulate Jacqueline and all the organizers, sponsors for bringing our profession to the right direction. And I'm honored to be part of it. So as you can see, this is my title. This is an experience learning activity to teach the concept of risk aversion, and other behavior patterns for investors making under uncertainty. So in their future professional life, our students will make a lot of consequential decisions under uncertainty. Some of these are at professional level, many of these are at personal level. Needless to say that finance needs a lot of decision expert. So deeper understanding about how they themselves make decisions under uncertainty, how other people making decisions will be essential part of finance education. Okay. On the other hand, I find conventional method of teaching this topic not very effective. Students may memorize the concept of risk return, risk aversion, risk premium for the duration of classes, and the long-term retention knowledge is questionable. Because it doesn't feel the impact of this concept themselves. So this particular type of teaching calls for an active learning activity. After all, what's a better way to teach about human behavior than creating an environment for the subject to demonstrate such behaviors and using their own behavior patterns to teach the stuff to them. So this is where I set out to do. Inspired by this goal, I created this game followed by the TV show Deal No Deal. Can I see a quick show of hands? How many of you have watched the game? Wonderful, wonderful, that's great. This show aired on CNBC in America from 2005 to 2009, and they were rerun after that, and in 2008, they restarted new seasons. Actually, this game show originated in Europe, started in Netherlands, and they were played around the globe in many different versions. With different prize money and different rounds, but the rules are very similar. To play this game, you need this, a $9 investment on Amazon. So this is a DVD game made especially for the player to play this game in your home, in my case, in the classroom. In my opinion, the game was pretty well made. There's animation every step of the way. It's the actual the host, Howie Mandel. I've been narrating the whole game. So the gameplay experience really simulates the contestant experience in the actual game show. Let me play a short video about game introduction and just have a sense about the quality of the video and basically game rule for those of you who have watched it.
You might have seen the show Deal or No Deal, but the way we play the DVD game is a little different. Pay attention, and I'll show you how it's done. The first thing you'll need to do is select a one-player or two-player game by using your remote control, and then press Enter or OK to begin. Just like the show, you're going to select a case between 1 and 26. This case is going to be your case for the entire game. Each case has a money amount inside from 1 penny all the way to $1 million. We're not going to show you what's inside your case until you get to the end of the game, or if you decide to take an offer from our banker to buy it from you. But we'll talk about that more in a bit. Once you choose your case, then you'll need to start selecting other cases to eliminate in the game. Each time you select a case, we'll open that case to reveal a money amount that is not in your case. As you continue to eliminate the money amounts, our banker will periodically call in and try to buy your case from you with an offer. Let's see what the banker has to offer you. The banker's offers will be different every time depending on which money amounts you eliminate from the game. The offer is $20,000. Of course, the goal is to eliminate the smaller amount so the banker's offer can be high. Each time the banker makes you an offer, you are going to need to answer one very important question for me. And that question is, deal or no deal?
So just to reiterate the game rules, right? 26 boxes with 26 unknown prizes. The contestant chose one to keep aside. That's per case, which won't be revealed until the very last round. So as the game plays, more cases are open each round, so more uncertainty is eliminated. Right? So we get a narrower range of prizes she can get. At the end of each round, there's someone called the banker to call in to make an offer to buy off the contestant's box. Right? If the contestant take the deal, she will take the banker's payment, a sure amount of money, and leave this game that's still uncertain for her. And there's a number of cases open each round, so she has 9 decisions to make. Right? If she denied all these offers along the way, she can open her case, and whatever the content of the case is her price. So the reason I like this game, I think serve the purpose really well is A, the rules is very simple, right? Compared to other game shows, there's no particular knowledge on any subject matter, right? There's no trivia questions. Anybody know their preference can play the game as long as the game rule is clear. Secondly, there is a sequential decision making, right? Not just one-off. So we can not only reflect on one-time decision making, but review the entire decision-making history, right? Create more dynamic information updating, offer receiving, decision-making, and repetitively. I think the similar real-life scenario pretty well, right? The information update and decision-making in sequences. The game show actually has attracted the attention of top researchers in our field. So these 4 authors in an AER paper using the game show result to study the prospect theory versus the speculativity hypothesis. They find support for the prospect theory. One of the authors, Richard Thaler, of course, is the winner of the 2017 Nobel Prize in Economics. And in that work, the game show Deal or No Deal has such desirable features that almost appears to be designed to be an economic experiment rather than a TV show. So it received the endorsement from the top researchers in our field. I usually arrange this game to be covered after the topic of risk and return has been discussed. Students are familiar with these 2 concepts. They know how to calculate standard deviations, variances, and mean payoff. But I haven't talked about the human behavior side yet. For the students who haven't watched the game, I gave them several links for them to watch on the YouTube, so to get familiar with that. I even quizzed them to make sure everybody knows the game rule and fully appreciate and engage in the game playing. On the game day, I placed few test rounds so that students, again, familiar how the game is played, so they can engage fully. I handed out a participation form, which you have now. On the top right section, again, is the game rule. On the top left section, the 26 prizes are listed. So as the student play the game, they can strike off the cases, the numbers reviewed, so they can track the progress of the game as long as they play along. At the very bottom is their input section. I asked them to write down something called reserve price. More on that later. Also, they can report down the bank offer each time, and importantly, their decision, deal or no deal. So this is the preparation part. I did some slight modification to the game when I implemented the classroom. For one thing, after each round of case opening, I pause the game and do some calculation about the simple statistics of the remaining numbers, the mean, the standard deviation, the variance, minimum, max, so we can connect to what they learned in the previous classes. Also, after the calculation, but before the hearing the banker's offer, I asked them to write down something called the reserve price, borrowing the concept from the eBay auction. Right? What's the minimum price you would charge to be bought off the game for you? Right? This is their individual decision to make. Since the game is played in a class setting, right? So on the game show, there is individual contestant. Right? How do we play this in a group? The idea is that all the students in the same room, we are playing the same game. All the numbers reviewed, all the banker's offer made are public information for all of us, just like stock market, right? We have the same information set. However, the key decision, deal or no deal, is their own to make. A student can decide to exit the game. What she did is she will write down her name, right? The round she exited, fold the form, hand it to me during the game. So as long as students exit the game, she take offer and become the audience. But as long as the student remain in the game will play on, right? In my experience playing this game in 13 classes, we always play to the last round. There's always someone who want to open their own boxes. But anyone can get off the bus anytime they want. Like there's individual decisions. I have an TA along the whole process, help me track down many of the key information on a whiteboard as the game play along. And this piece of information become a key teaching materials after the game. Right? So the teaching happens from those materials. One key element missing here, for people to feel excited, anxiety, fear, greed, they have some skin in the game, right? They have something to gain or loss, something valuable. I'm not sure about you, I don't have millions of dollars of research funding that can dole out, right? But we have to give them something valuable that they value. Well, we all know the answer, right? So what is valuable to students that don't cause me to take out second mortgage on my house? The answer is extra credit. So the exchange ratio is $100,000 equal to 1 extra credit applicable to the final exam. So if your student wins the big prize, $1 million, she can get 10 extra credit for the final exam. Is this a strong enough incentive? My experience is very strong. Very, very strong. I can see you can all connect. On the activity day, the classroom is very lively and vivid. Depends on the number open in the case reviewed. There's often large cheers or loud groans. Right? I've seen students nail biting. Some people stand up panting. As the game plays on and on, they become more nervous and anxious. They're high-fiving, shoulder patting, occasionally group hugging, sometimes jumping up and down. Right? A senior colleague observed my class that day, told me that during her 30 years of teaching, she never seen anything that exciting in the classroom. All of this validated the purpose of the game, that is, we want to create an environment where the decision makers has to behave as if they have something to lose. Right? There's a stake in the game. We want to mimic real life scenarios. So the key part of this, of course, is the post-game discussion. This is something the TA will help me write down on the whiteboard. The amount reviewed in each round, some simple statistics, like sometimes a mean, sometimes also have standard deviation. The banker's offer. I calculate an offer to mean ratio just to show them the gap. Lastly, the number of takers, the number of deal takers in each round are on the whiteboard. So this is something for students to see in the post-game discussion. I don't have the time to discuss exactly how I teach each subject, but I want to highlight what concept can we relate this game result to in the textbook version. As the uncertainty is eliminated, we can see that the gap between the bank offer and the mean is shrinking. Right? This gave us the opportunity to teach about risk aversion, risk premium, and the measurement of risk. We can extend from here any longer or shorter than you want. You can see the students make really diverse decisions. Some actually in round one, many stayed later in the game. There's always someone in the last round. We can use this opportunity to talk about what motivates people to have different risk preference. Right? What's their background? What's their behavior patterns? Or even behavior biases can motivate students to exhibit such a diverse choices, even if they play the same game in the same classroom settings. Also, because this game is played in a group setting, we can also demonstrate the herding behavior. Right? We can pause here to point out some students like to exit together. I actually found students asking each other, checking with their friend, are you in, are you out? So they want to be safe, they want to join a group. So this is a behavior pitfall, right? It's hard to teach verbally, but now they feel it. When asking students, does the previous round's offer affect your decision in this round? This opens a discussion about reference point, right? The whole prospect theory about task-dependent decision making. And the reason I have this reserve prize because it helped me teach this very abstract concept I find challenging to teach before this. Certainty equivalent payoff, right? The amount a person will charge to give up an uncertain outcome, right? The risk premium shown in the graph. This is how I used to teach it, right? I'm very abstract, not very impactful, not very vivid with students. Now they have something in front of them that can link the concept much better. My point is not I can use this game to teach everything in the textbook. It's more of a supplement, like more of a activity to get interest level high. There's research findings that higher interest level leads to higher learning outcome, right? So we can use these opportunities, use these results to motivate them, to get them more engaged in the learning of these concepts. Even though I'm brief about how to teach these concepts, one nice thing about using this TV activity is actually there's a large research focusing on using the game show results to test all sorts of theories in risk and decision making, including Taylor's paper. Right? So almost every aspect of this game has been studied in the literature. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Right? For any particular subject I want to teach, I can go to the relevant paper, make some simple adaptations, and put in my game. So you can see this is suitable. This game, I have played this game in both introductory level classes, intermediate level classes, and graduate level classes. Right? You can go as surgical as possible, or you can go as deep as you can. Right? There's a vast majority of research to inform our teaching. Right? A nice example about research teaching integration. Speaking of research teaching integration, we can also turn this thing around. Why only use research to inform teaching? We can use teaching to inform our research. What do I mean? Well, as we play this game in our own classes, we can start collecting data, right? So we can collect data, from their gameplay decisions from all the forms I collect after class. Even better, one advantage we have compared with these top researchers, Nobel Prize winners, in our field, is we can get some information they don't. They observe the decision-making process, but they don't have information about decision makers themselves. They can see the gender of contestants, maybe guessing their age, but we can do a post-game survey to our own students. Race, gender, religion, working experience, investment experience, international students or not, all sorts of things, right? GPA, class grade. So we can have all kinds of background factors collected from students. We can even ask them specific questions. What motivated your decision in each round? Right? We can tailor design the questions to combine these two source information together to generate rich research findings. Can this be done? The answer is yes, we did it. So my colleague Peter Browse and I actually use this method to publish a paper on journal Risk Findings, where we studied what factors among our students motivate to be more risk averse. Right? And I'll be happy to share research findings if you're interested. So you can see that this game has been very well received from our students. Very positive, overwhelming feedback. I also noticed that after this game was implemented in class, the student performance on exam questions on risk and decision making has a significant improvement. Sometimes recently graduate students came back to visit me and they told me this is one thing they remember most in their entire undergraduate education process. So I feel quite proud of that. So this is my kind of introduction. If you are interested in adopting this game, I really welcome you to do so. You can scan this QR code. My whole teaching package is in a document. I even include my research paper at the end of the document. Feel free to adopt any way you want. And I'll be happy to take any questions for now.
I have a
Yes, okay.
So I was just thinking, so at Georgia Tech, because we're not a university, we're an institute, we have a small number of majors. That's the difference. And all the old timers are, and they tell me to make sure FMA knows, don't tell them Georgia Tech University, we're an institute, it's not a university. But because of that, our population of students is somewhat different in the College of Business. We have most of the student athletes in the College of Business. And what I've noticed in my classes, and I get a lot of the football players, every time I play a game, they're the most aggressive. They are absolutely the most aggressive because they're competitive by nature. And so I was just wondering if it would be interesting to look at that, like not just, are they doing any kind of outside activity where they have to take risk or they're in a competitive situation naturally, I get emails from them. If they're second in a game, they're all emailing me, telling me to call a penalty on another group. Yeah, like they didn't play it right and whatever. So it's interesting. I think those characteristics they matter. So this was fascinating. Yeah.
And you mentioned risk aversion a couple times, and I had that same thought. What about the risk seekers?
Yeah.
Let me comment on that. That's a great question. Something I want to mention because I don't want to run out of time. We study their behaviors, right? So we don't find strong influence on gender among the risk aversion groups. So as long as individuals risk averse, we find females are as risk averse as males. There's no huge difference. However, in the game, in some games, there are occasions the bank offer is above the mean, especially after a very bad one. The bank offer can be 105% of the mean, and something would turn like that. This has become the risk seeker realm. And I find the risk seekers and all the students who stay in the last round, no matter what, are predominantly male. Like, let's go, don't take it. So you can really fit profile really well.
So there was some research that somebody helped me recall that has a better memory than me. There was some research that looked at trading behavior with somewhere in Europe. Somebody helped me. Because it was a European country where you could get data on individual speeding tickets. Does anybody remember that paper? Anyway, but they related people who speed and who are risk takers in trading. Again, it's male. Yeah.
We survey, one survey question is from 1 to 10, how risky are you outside classroom? Do you do like mountain biking, parachute jumping? And we find strong correlation, of course, the more risky behavior they take in personal life, the more aggressive they play the game.
So mine's kind of twofold. Do you find that students are more aggressive that have better grades, so that the actual risk that they're taking? I mean, because if you have 100 in the class, right, the final exam is kind of irrelevant for you. So
I shouldn't shake my head. So one slide I cut off because the time limit is I show the average payoff for risk seekers and risk averse person, and the result is red bar for risk seekers. So the one who turned down higher than mean offers, they perform worse than class average.
Sure.
But people who are risk averse, they perform better. However, among the risk aversion group, the more risk they take, the better the payoff. So the risk return relationship works among the risk aversion groups, but not the risk seekers.
So I was talking about the correlation going the other way. Do you find that the people who have better grades in the class up to that point are the ones that are more likely to be the risk seekers because they have less to lose?
I also have that in the paper. So we think in this scenario, their overall GPA is almost like their wealth, and class grade is almost like their income, right? So we started to find findings that maybe students with a short A's still play more aggressively, but we don't find strong correlation that. The good students who can get A's do not play more aggressively or less aggressively than students have a 3.0 GPA.
Does it spill over to socioeconomic status then?
Say it again?
Do you have any metric measuring
Income
their
level, right?
Socioeconomic class.
Not sure what's the class. So I do measure race, gender, religion, culture background. I mean, let me review. I don't want to spend too much time covering my research because the teaching session, but it's very interesting. One thing we find significantly make people more risk averse across all tests. First surprised me, and then when I see results, it makes a lot of sense. It's actually being an international student. International students take a lot less risk in my classes. However, that's why I want someone to take over to study in your schools maybe, because our international students mainly come from from East Asia. So we don't know if it's a foreign thing or culture thing. Most students from China, Taiwan, Vietnam, Indonesia. So if you can somehow find different group, I really like to know the answer, because we couldn't tell this two apart in our own research design.
So one more question, and then we've got to one question, and then you can ask questions after.
Well, I'll make it quick,
Yeah.
but it's going to be an important question.
Of course it is. Yes.
So, in the legal perspective, did you ever encounter any students either accusing you that given that's 10% of the grade, that is big stake. And also that given that is like it or not, you like it or not, they take it as a purely luck. Right? So did you ever encounter anybody accusing you to say that it's not fair? That's number one. Number two, okay. We all teach different universities, we all have different rules, different codes. And what I can imagine that in our university, given that we are very soft, this is not going to be okay by the general.
To get permission to collect this data, I go through something called institutional research.
Oh, I'm sorry, not about data, about approach. That you just say, okay, it's not about your ability, not about you, you personal work on the coursework. It's purely about that you play the game, you play it well. That's how you do it.
I never had that problem. No students ever complain about that. The only complaint has that the number chosen, the class has to vote to choose which case to keep. The number one concern I receive is that number is not my lucky number. So that's so far the concern I receive. But for the data collection part, I follow all the procedures with school approval.
Yeah, I'm pretty
and
sure
I
that's
always
what
store their data on a password protected USB drive and follow all that. In my final research, no identity was revealed, of course.
Well, great. Well, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.